Did Yaakov sound like this stereotypical Jewish father, mother, bragging, my son the lawyer, my son the doctor, my son the king, and therefore he enjoyed his life in Egypt? Doesn't seem to suit for Yaakov. But let's discuss it soon after we have recited the 100th chapter of Tehillim, to thank God for all the miracles and praying for the ultimate miracle, which will include the safety of the soldiers, the return of all the hostages, coming of Mashiach. So my friends, chapter 100, Mizmor L'Soy D'Orila Nosoy, and some tzedakah, my dear friends. So, going to what I asked the question about Yaakov Avinu. The parsha of this week, which is actually the conclusion of the entire book of Bereshis, the end of the era, creation all the way till the patriarchs and the 12 tribes, the passing of this entire generation. And the name of the parsha is Vaychi, and he lived. Now, what is the content? Talking about the passing of Yaakov, talking about the passing of the 12 tribes, talking about the passing of Joseph, and the kind of beginning of exile. How does this fit with the word Vaychi, and he lived? He died. They died. Not life. Interesting. One of the classic commentators on the Torah, called the Balaturim, he has short quotes, very profound though. And he says the following: Yaakov lived in Egypt Shva Esrei Shana, it says, 17 years. So that's not an accident. Nothing happens in life in general by accident, and certainly not with our patriarchs. The fact that the Torah tells us that Yaakov lived for 17 years in Egypt, why is that so important? It says to tell us. 17 corresponds to the Hebrew word of toiv, good. Emphasizing that the best years of Yaakov was those 17 years that they lived in Egypt. Now, how do we understand this? Now, it cannot be just because Yaakov was so proud and so happy to see, my son the king, and therefore this was the best years of his. Yaakov is a holy man. Yaakov is a person of truth. Yaakov is Ish Emes. Yaakov is Torah. Yaakov doesn't get excited that his son is the viceroy in Egypt. Big thing. Egypt is what? Place of immorality, place of incest, place of total inappropriate behavior. This is where he was content. Living in this environment, Yaakov could be content. No, I would expect that Yaakov is happy. Yaakov's best life is when he was in the holy tents of his father Yitzchak, his mother Rivka, or when he was in the yeshiva of Shem Ve'ever, not in here in this debased society. But the answer lies in the following. Remember when Yosef had the dreams, like everybody's bowing to him? The brothers were jealous, but v'aviv shomer es hadover. Yaakov remembered that. Yaakov held on to this idea, meaning Yaakov knew a day will come when this will happen. What does this represent? Yaakov knows the journey of where the Jewish people are going to have to go to. They're going to have to go into exile. For ultimately the purpose of receiving the Torah. For ultimately leading us with the Torah to the redemption, the final perfection of the world. The time of Mashiach. And he knew that this is going to have to be taking place. He was concerned. How will we survive? How will we be able to overcome the temptations and the challenges of Egypt and the likes? When Yaakov saw Yosef, as a young man, all alone, can withstand the challenge of imprisonment, can withstand the challenge of grandeur, of being the most powerful man in the world at that time. He ruled Egypt. Nothing happened in Egypt without his doing, without his saying. Yet he was able to raise two sons that Yaakov says they're just as old as my sons, that they were raised in a protective environment. Says Yaakov, I'm sure, I feel good about the journey that's coming up. Vaychi, Yaakov lived his best life because he saw there is continuity to what he represents. And that's what life is all about. And therefore the Talmud says, Yaakov didn't die. And Yaakov is alive, and we'll see him soon with the coming of Mashiach.